Stop talking so much. When you practice verbal minimalism or silence, you are free from the pressure, the stress, the anxiety, the obligation to please people, to get people to like you, to say what you think people want to hear. You're completely liberated from that. And silence becomes your ally, not something that you fear or avoid or need to fill the air with words that are not coming from a pure place or not coming from an authentic place. They're coming from a place because you want to manage other people's impression of you. And that is exhausting. It is completely draining living like that. And when you release that pressure from yourself, you're free in social situations. You're free to be authentic. If you want to say something, you say it. If you don't want to say something, you keep silent and allow yourself to feel uncomfortable with that silence. Because part of the pressure in social anxiety or stress or fear that we feel in social interactions is because we put pressure on ourselves to please people or to make sure that people like us, that they don't think we're rude, that they don't think we're unkind, that they think we're warm, friendly, and nice people. So many people are overly friendly or overly nice just because they want something from you. They want your approval. Don't be that person. When you're seeking someone else's approval, you become their prisoner. And so much of what we do is in that, like that energy or that mindset that I've got to get this person to like me. I've got to get this person to think that I'm kind and nice. It's just not necessary. Now, I'm not saying going around being rude or being obnoxious or saying mean things to people. One of my YouTube viewers named JR wrote in the description that he struggles or she struggles with social anxiety. And one of the things that really helps him or her is this principle of not to talk. It's so contrary to how we do things. When we get in social situations, we want to immediately fill the air with words. Hey, we can't even allow silence in our own lives. We always need to be listening to something, to be staring at something, to be doing something. As Blaise Pascal says, all of man's problems comes from not being able to sit alone in a room and do nothing. And sometimes one of the greatest practices you can do, and I recommend for my clients, I'm a life coach, by the way, is just to stare at a wall. Sit in a room and stare at a wall and start making silence your ally instead of something that you fear or avoid. And when you get comfortable with silence and solitude, you'll get even more comfortable with it in social situations, and it'll really set you free. You don't need to feel that pressure and that obligation and that responsibility and that burden, as JR says, to carry the weight of the conversation. He said he struggled with social anxiety and panic attacks, and this really helped him. And it's something that it's just what we want to do in life. It's just we talk about in my other videos about minimalism, and minimalism applies to so many areas besides physical possessions. And verbal minimalism and saying only things that need to be said and really being mindful of yourself when speaking, it feels so good, because speaking and interacting and engaging, and especially with introverts, takes energy. And when you don't pressure or burden yourself with trying to perform in order to get the other person to like you or to think well of you, and you just say, you know what, I'm not responsible if they like me or not. That's not my burden. I'm just going to be myself, and maybe 50% of the people like me, maybe 25% of the people are indifferent to me, and maybe 25% of the people like me. Hey, that's high numbers. I'm a black sheep, I'm not like other people. I have different views on the world. I have different personality traits. I do my best to live an authentic life and be authentic in communication and to be honest in communication. And if I only get 1 out of 10% of the people that like me or want to continue the conversation or to socialize with me, that's a victory. And I think the problem is it's like a puzzle piece. Not every puzzle piece is going to fit, but we put pressure on ourselves that I got to fit and everyone's got to like or approve of me. Hey, even great movies that I've seen, I've shared with other people like, oh my God, that movie was incredible. And they're like, oh, I thought it sucked. Or vice versa. We don't need to get people to like us. Give that up. And one of the ways you can give it up is zip the lip. Be silent. Be an active listener. Ask questions about the other person. And I'm not saying being rude, cold, or unfriendly. Like, you can make eye contact. You can have warm, open, and friendly body language and tone of voice. But just stop performing. Stop trying to manage impressions of what other people think of you. It's not worth it. And you don't need that many friends. If you can count on one hand 5 close people that you connect with on a deep level that would be there for you if you call them at 3 a.m. in the morning because your car broke down and you need to pick them up. You need them to pick you up and you woke them out of a dead sleep and they would do it. That's enough. We don't need to please everybody. Now, I realize in some social situations, you might have to put on the mask. Like in work, you can't be totally authentic and open with your boss and say exactly or whatever you want to say. But man, free yourself of the burden of having to perform and having to get people to like you. And I tell my clients, if you're awkward, be awkward in social situations. If you're boring, be boring in social situations. Listen how disruptive noise is. We fill the world and our social bubble with constant noise. It's so unsettling to constantly be filling the air with noise. And there's something beautiful as you've listened before the leaf blower started, of sitting in silence, being in silence, practicing silence, and conversing with silence, allowing a lot of space for silence. And yeah, it is really pressure free, and it will alleviate so much of our stress. And what it also does is allows us to communicate intuitively. It allows us to communicate authentically. It allows us to say things when we really feel like it's something of value, or we really feel like it's something that we want to say, and we stop becoming actors. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, as I say in my videos, and start practicing this in social situations. And it's going to be hard in the beginning. And there's so many things that I notice I will say that are just conditioned, polite responses because that's what you're supposed to do. I don't want to do what I'm supposed to do in social situations. I want to be who I am, and I want to do what I want to do in social situations. And it's like a skill. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the better you become at it. And when I'm coaching people, I really help them navigate social situations, because that is one of the most common things to work on in coaching. And social stretching sets us free. And you can think of this as a social stretch. And you'll see, once you start practicing it, it will be uncomfortable. Not feeling the burden to carry the weight of the conversation and to allowing space for silence but my goodness, it leads to inner peace and inner calm. And if you're a nerd, be a nerd in social situations. If you're a tech geek, be a tech geek. If you're awkward, be awkward. If you're uncomfortable, allow yourself to be uncomfortable, because what stresses us out is trying to be someone we are not. All right, here comes the leaf blower, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'd love to hear your comments of how you've applied this in your social situations, or how your life would change if you did apply this in social situations. And thanks for putting up with the leaf blower. Hey, not everything goes as planned. And if you want very effective, affordable life coaching, send me an email. It's in the description. It will change the course and path of your life. Having someone that's not a friend or family member to hold you accountable and support you, and it's gentle accountability, and give you the strategies, and really also work on inner contentment. Because when you're content within, you're not as dependent on the approval of other people.